Hello readers, my name's Nick and this time we will be talking about At the Mountains of Madness, my first and still favourite story by H.P. Lovecraft, the one and only. As with most of Lovecraft stuff, it's a science fiction horror story dealing with some of the weirdest, most outrageous things in the universe. It was originally published in Astounding Stories in 1936, but has gone on to be republished just so many times in different anthologies, books containing the best horror in history, and countless Lovecraft compilations. Now, although it's my favourite story, I wouldn't say it's the most easy to read, not least because of the amount of times he writes Cyclopean. Wow, that took a while to say. The story itself deals with a bunch of scientists who go to research a find in Antarctica and end up biting off way more they can chew as they find frozen bodies of what are known as elder things and an entire city of aliens that's been long abandoned and left to the ravages of time. Admittedly, the story could have been condensed a hell of a lot into a short story rather than a novella, but you don't get the build-up in it. There's a hell of a lot of build-up in this story. I mean, you've got just mundane stuff about how they get to Antarctica, what they're doing, the processes, who they're working for, before they even find anything. And once they do find something, it still draws it out by explaining everything in excruciating detail. I mean, it really paints a picture of these horrifying elder things. And I think that's the biggest strength of this story, is the fact that it just describes everything so well. A lot of people are going to get turned off by that. I know a lot of people didn't like J.R.R. Tolkien because of the amount of description he puts into everything, but I personally like it because it really paints a picture and it tells you exactly what Lovecraft was thinking while he was writing it. Where I do have a problem, and this is a kind of a sticking point with all of Lovecraft stories, is that most of the backstory you get about the aliens and these ancient cities and civilizations is the fact that it's mostly speculation. I mean, you've got people talking about who these people might be, who these aliens might be, these elder things, from rumour and hearsay, and stories written down in the Lovecraft fallback, the Necronomicon. Sure, it works to paint a picture, but I find it sometimes that you can't believe it because the characters in the book don't even believe it. But then again, that's half the point. It's all cosmic horror. It all is supposed to dwarf your imagination. You're not supposed to understand it. You just get these bits of evidence and go, what? How does this all fit together? What are these things? Anyway, they find an elder thing buried in the ice, and they unthaw it and they examine it, and it's like this completely alien thing that they've never seen before. And it's not like they overreact and, oh my god, it's an alien! They go about it very scientifically. They analyse it, they dissect it, they think up theories, and then they go exploring some more. And eventually they find a city buried far under the ice of Antarctica of the elder things. And this is where the word Cyclopean comes into it a whole lot. A bunch of these explorers go down into this city, and it basically charts what is down there. And this is one of a few Lovecraft stories that you actually see things. I mean, I know I complained about it not being certain on their history, but why would it be when it's told from the viewpoint of these explorers, these researchers? But in this story, they actually go down into the city and explore, and everything's kind of like maddening architecture and incomprehensible stuff, but it's been long left to decay and rot, and they're just like, this is so old it predates humanity. And they speculate that the elder things actually created humanity, and there's a lot of speculation. I mean, the Cthulhu mythos doesn't really have a canon per se. I mean, you have all the elder gods and the outer things and everything like that, but there's so much contradiction in the stories, and I think that's the perk of not being overly clear about the mythology in these stories. I mean, you can describe a city, a single city, but you don't have to commit yourself to a definite history. So in another story you can go away and say, oh no, this is actually what happened. And although I'm a stickler for canon, again, that ties in with the whole cosmic horror thing. It's not possible to imagine what the hell is going on. But from what they see of the alien and the city it inhabited, I'd probably say the Elder Things were some of the most human. And that's gonna sound really strange if you've actually read the story, because these Elder Things are described as starfish, basically, with lots of tentacles and a weird starfish head and like 5 appendages in it. It's really weird. But they came to Earth. They not considered as some kind of outer god who controls the universe or anything. They came to Earth, they settled, they had wars with other species, they did their own experiments, they built cities, and they progressed like you would imagine a species would. Despite the fact that they are so alien and the very sight of the city drives these people mad, they are still more on our level of understanding. And that's a really interesting aspect of the Mountains of Madness, I think. Anyway, the guys, they continue to explore the city even though it's freaking them out, and they go deep into the earth, into the ice cap or whatever, and eventually they find life. There's something still down there. Now, it turns out these Elder Things, they were masters of genetics. That's why it's considered that they created humanity. And they were able to create anything, including their own race of slave workers known, and you might know this word, as the Shoggoths. Now, the Shoggoths are lumbering masses of flesh and stuff. It's not, you cannot comprehend a Shoggoth, not really. They're just masses with eyes and mouths and tentacles, and what it's described is they can morph into pretty much anything in order to carry out the task that they need to carry out. Anyway, they go down and they find a Shoggoth, basically. Now they don't describe it well. Again, they refer back to other stuff to describe the Shoggoth, but they just kind of, right at the end, they see it there and it's like, oh my god, and they just leg it. They're just out noping all the way home. And that's where the real horror of this story comes into. The mundanity of their research, then the weirdness of finding the alien, and then the majesty of finding the city, and then the horror of finding that the city is still inhabited by something. That's why I like this story. It's a slow boil, but it tingles, it just gets you. Anyway, if you've read The Mountains of Madness, at The Mountains of Madness even, then let me know. Tell me what you thought of it. Tell me if I'm completely wrong and it's the shittest Lovecraft story you've ever read. But personally, it's one of my favourites. And I will talk to you soon about another story or book or whatever. Have a great day!